Hmm, let's see. Hello, people. Hello, people. Hello, people. This is HQ here. This is our call in show, and we're here to find out who we have to call in and broach the subject of what you can do to prepare for being married, right? I mean, can you tell us, the audience, what you have done to prepare for marriage, right? This is what we want to hear. We want to hear what people have to say, because a lot of people, they sit in the clouds. They sit, they just sit on lives. They don't call in. They don't want to have a discussion. They don't know how to have a discussion, right? And there's a lot of people who don't know what to do to prepare, right? I had been doing a lot of preparing when I was a kid. I used to read a lot of books, a lot of books. Like I used to read like 6, 7 books like a week, right? Preparing how to be a wife, preparing how to be a mother, preparing how to be, to actually run a house. And, I was young, so I knew that's what I wanted to do. A lot of kids used to come to the door and say, "Hey, when is HQ coming outside?" And they'd be like, my mother would be like, "She ain't coming outside. She in the house reading," right? And then I'd be reading books about how I could, this is the type of person that I wanted to be married to. This is the type of person that how lifestyle I wanted. And this is the, things we're going to do children wise. So I learned to have patience. I learned to talk to people. I learned to talk to men. I learned a lot, doing that. But mostly what I learned, I learned a lot of things, but I mostly learned that I had to know myself, know yourself, know what you like, know what you don't like, know what you want to do, know how you want to treat people, understand your values, what you valued, what you prioritized, a lot of long term goals. I know I want to have 5 children. I knew I wanted to have 5 children. I knew I wanted to, uh, not be a stay at home wife. I knew I wanted to work and help the family, right? And thank goodness I found a man who wanted that same thing. So I mean, it was a lot. It was a lot of thinking about myself and knowing myself, and thinking about my weaknesses, my strengths. I know I don't have patience. I know that's one thing I don't have patience for. And I learned after having children, I had even less patience. But thank God I had a husband who had patience. I mean, the most patient man. He talked to the children, he'd get down in their faces and he'd speak to them and ask them what. But he was a stern person where he would say, "This is what needs to be done. This is what I want you to do." Like, you can't, like, for example, whenever he cooked dinner or whenever dinner was cooked, he would tell the children, "You have to make sure you eat what's on your plate. You have to make sure that you keep a cup so that you're not wasting cups. So you keep this particular cup on the table and you don't take it off until you're done for for the night. And then you wash your cup." So the kids learn to be responsible, about, what they ate, and learn to be responsible about, doing chores and that kind of thing, right? So I found a person. I found a person that actually wanted to be married, who wanted to train children, That's an important thing too, to prepare yourself. When you're preparing yourself to be married, you have to learn, you have to know what you want to train your children to do. Do you want to train your children to be responsible adults? These are the things you think about before you get married. You have to think about what you did in a previous relationship. What did you do wrong in the previous relationship? A lot of people don't self-reflect, right? A lot of people are like, well, he cheated on me and she cheated on me and she did this, that, and the third, with no self-reflection at all. Well, maybe I was emotionally unavailable. Maybe I knew she wasn't the person that I wanted to be the mother of my children. I just didn't know how to tell her. Maybe I knew he didn't have the strength to be a leader in my house. But a lot of people don't self-reflect on the people that they choose to get involved with. Has this person prepared themselves to be a husband? And I'm not saying, I had a conversation with somebody today, and I asked them, I said, did you stop sleeping with the person that you were sleeping with before you met your husband or whatever? And the person just said no, because I don't know whether that person would be the person that I wanted to marry. And until I was sure about that person, I wasn't going to stop sleeping with the person that I was involved with. And then I thought to myself, is that how people really think? Is that preparing yourself? She said, well, it's preparing myself. At least I know what I don't want. I knew that person wasn't the person that I wanted to be married to. I knew that. So I said, okay, but what else did you do? What else did you do to prepare yourself for marriage? So, with that being said, I would like to hear from other people. I would like to hear from people. You know, what did you do to prepare for marriage? What did you want to do to prepare for marriage? Were you available? Were you available when that person said they wanted you to be emotionally available? Were you one of the people who thought you would go from relationship to relationship and it would work? What type people prepare themselves to be married? And should you prepare yourself to be married, or should you fly by the seat of your pants? Should you even prepare? Because you never know what comes down the pike if you don't prepare to be married. Like I said, I read books and I saw the example that my parents gave. My parents were married. My parents met when they were in their 20s, early 20s, and they were together until they died. So they had never really, they had never really been apart, I guess. They had never been separated as far as I know. They made the commitment to stay together. So, and that same with my brother and his wife. You know, the same with most people I know. That I have a relationship or familiar relationship with, right? Because commitment means something, right? And my whole thing is, why is it that we're so far away from marriage meaning something and people preparing themselves for marriage? Another thing I think you need to be aware of is when you go in a relationship, you should be able to communicate with another human being, you should be able to communicate without screaming, without hollering, without hitting, without forcing the conversation. You should be the one that practices communication. See, a lot of people may be uncomfortable with talking to the opposite sex. And people wonder why people are comfortable, or men are comfortable talking to women, or women are comfortable talking to men. It's because they practice, not consciously, but they practice, every day. They get past their comfort zone to speak to another person, to have rapport with another person. This is how people become comfortable with talking to other people. You become comfortable. You build strong communication if you're preparing to be married. Because who wants to be in a relationship with a person who doesn't know how to communicate? And the only thing you know how to do is throw stuff. The only thing you know how to do is hit. The only thing you know how to do is curse. You got to learn to express yourself, specifically your feelings and your needs, your wants, your desires. Who wants to be in a relationship where they're stifled? Where my husband really doesn't know he doesn't give me an orgasm. Or she really doesn't know that she doesn't know how to give BJs. But I'm afraid to tell her. Communication is one of the biggest things that you can do in a relationship. One of the biggest things that you need to have. Most important skills. On top of knowing how to fight. And people say, HQ, you talking about people learning how to fight. Yes, people need to know how to fight. If people don't know how to fight, that means you'll resort to the old skills that you have practiced, which means this person doesn't want to listen to me. I might raise my hand to this person. I might be willing to punch this person. I might be willing to slap this person. Communication, open communication, and conflict resolution. Most important things you need to know when preparing yourself to be married. And you need to practice those every day. Every day. So my whole point is, I want to hear from people who understand or don't know how to resolve those things, or think there's other things that are more important than those two skills: open communication and conflict resolution. I posit that those are the most important things when you're preparing yourself to be married. Because if you don't know how to speak to someone and you don't know how to accept adverse conversations with another human being, that marriage will not last. And we want marriages to last, right? We want to be able to have communication with other people and then make them understand our side. You may not agree, but you want the person to understand and see your side. Okay? Those are the two most important skills when you're getting married: conflict resolution and open communication. The most important skills of getting married. Also, when you're preparing yourself to get married, or some of the things you need to do, is you need to discuss what you expect me to do. You expect me to clean? You expect me to be home with the children? You expect me to quit my job? You expect me to quit doing what I'm doing? These things need to be expressed. What are my roles? What are your roles? What are the responsibilities? I see myself as a person who wants to travel the world. This is something that needs to be expressed before we get married, before we even get really deep into a conversation. I want to travel the world and I want to work as a missionary. Well, I know I don't want to do that, so I'm not going to date you. I'm not going to get involved with you. But these are things that you need to be expressed. A lot of people don't express these things. And then we run into conflicts. Do I want to be in a polyamorous relationship? Do I want to have more than one partner? These are things that need to be discussed and developed if you really want to have a marriage that lasts. If you're preparing yourself for a truly lasting relationship, these are things that you need to talk about first. Because these days, the whole big thing for men is, oh, I need to have more than one woman. This is something that you need to tell, you need to tell me that before I get involved with you. And if I'm on board with it, then we can have a discussion, right? But you don't pop that on me after I've had sex with you, or pop that on me after I had a baby by you. These are things that you don't pop up after the fact, right? You pop up this stuff before the fact. And then I need to find out whether you believe in what I believe in. You might believe in the snow bunny. You might believe in Santa Claus and I don't. You might believe in celebrating Thanksgiving and I don't. Celebrating birthdays and I don't. Worshiping at the knees of some weird god and I don't. You might believe in I don't know, you might believe in stuff that I don't believe in. Before we get involved, before we go down the road, the rabbit hole, you're supposed to tell me these things. Because we need to be on the same page. These are the things that you find out about yourself before you get married. I want to be a devout Christian. I want to be a Muslim. I want to practice the Hindu religion. I know these are the things that I want. So I have to find a person that has like-minded things that I do. So you have to know yourself and prepare yourself. You're preparing yourself to be married. You're preparing yourself to be the leader. You're preparing yourself. There should be no question about what and when and how. And it should never be popped on another person. Another thing people have to do, if they're really truly preparing themselves to be married, is not be living by the seat of their pants. Not be spending their whole paycheck, going out every weekend, spending money on prostitutes, giving all their money away. You should be padding the nest. Men and women should be padding the nest. They should be putting some portion of their money behind. So that they can prepare for what comes, for a rainy day, for children's braces, for that special bike that you want to buy your husband, that motorcycle you want to buy your husband, that special wedding dress that you want to buy. You know the wedding dress costs about $3,000. You're putting money away for that. He knows he wants to take a vacation when he gets married. I want to be able to take this vacation when I get married. So I know I need to prepare. Am I the best version of myself before I put myself out there to be married? A lot of people think they're the best version of themselves, and you're far from being the best version of yourself. I want to hear from people who think they're the best version. I want to hear from people who know they're not the best version. What do you do to prepare yourself to be a husband? What do you prepare yourself to be wife-wise? The one thing we cannot keep continuing to do is tell a person what they need to do. You need to know what you need to do and find like individuals that you want to be involved with. You cannot get involved with a person. You cannot get involved with a person without letting them know what you're doing, what you're preparing for. How prepared are you to be a wife or a husband? The person I spoke to today said, I'm not going to stop sleeping with nobody until I find the man that I want. I was like, what? You're not going to stop sleeping with the man until you find a man that want to marry you? She said, yeah. I said, that's not preparing to be married. That's not preparing to be anything at all. That's just preparing for your pleasure. You're not preparing anything. You're just keeping your needs fulfilled. What about the man? What does he think about you sleeping with somebody else? Well, he won't know. He won't know that I'm sleeping with the other person because I'm not going to tell him. She won't know that I'm sleeping with somebody else. Why would I tell her that I'm sleeping with somebody else when I want to get to know her? I guess that's how people work. I guess that's how people work, right? So, I mean, I guess if that's the way they do it these days, the millennial generation, maybe you're not fit to be married, or maybe you're not fit to want to get married, want somebody to marry you. But I do know sleeping with other people, when you really want to get involved with someone else, will not work. You have to prepare yourself to be married, to be a wife. And that means making sure medically you're okay, fit to have children, fit unencumbered by sexual diseases or anything. Preparing yourself, going to the doctor, making sure you're going to the dentist, making sure that everything is in a row. So when you get married, there won't be a discussion about, well, I ain't been to the doctor in 3 years. What do you mean you ain't been to the doctor in 3 years? What? You go to the doctor every year. You get I had a physical this year, September. I have a physical every September to prepare myself for what I want to do next. So I don't look around and then something happens to me and I'm sick. Right? I got sick. Maybe cancer hit me or anything crazy like that. Right? You prepare yourself. And you don't stop, because you're supposed to be the best version of yourself when you give yourself to a husband or a wife or whatever. You're preparing. Another thing you do is you make sure that everybody has the help that they need. You have the help that you need. You are preparing yourself. That means mentally, you're supposed to be stable. Mentally, you know that you can't do everything your husband wants you to do without sacrificing what you want to do, how you want to be, how you want to show up in the world. I want to be a doctor, but my husband wants to be, I don't know, an electrician. You all individually have goals that you want to meet. And you're being the best version that you can getting to that goal. But prepare that goal, prepare that profession to be marriage friendly. You know you want to be married at some point. At what point can you get married? My job takes me overseas. I know I don't want to marry a foreign person. I want to marry an American. When can your job bring you back to America so you can be married in the States so you can do your job in the States and be married. Preparing yourself to be married. Learning how to navigate friendships and relationships outside of each other. I'm not one of those people that says my husband can't have female friends. That's something that is determined by you. It's another person's problem if they have a problem with you having male friends and you know that you're not sleeping with those male friends and he's not sleeping with his female friends. There shouldn't be that kind of jealousy there once you get to know those friends. It's another thing if they don't want to tell you about those friends or want you to meet those friends or be involved with those friends. This is preparing yourself to be married. If your mate says, I don't want you to have male friends, you need to discuss and figure out why. Especially if these friends have been lifelong friends, right? You can pull back. You can pull back from these relationships. You can pull back from these friendships. And they will understand the boundaries that you have. And then your mate should understand you pulling back and putting up boundaries and barriers to this friendship. But they shouldn't call for you to end those friendships. That's your call. He shouldn't have to end his friendships either, as long as they're not sexual, right? But he should pull back. He should put a barrier between them and you and him. Okay. But everybody needs friends. Everybody needs friends. Me and my husband, we never had the same interest. He loved football. He was a fanatic with football. He was a fanatic with sports. I hate sports. I don't even know who won Super Bowls. I don't know none of that. Only reason why I know names of the athletes is because I hear them on the news and whatever, and people mention them. That's it. Michael Jordan is the last person I remember. You'd have to have me, and LeBron James. I'd be hard pressed to come up with other names because I'm not a person that's interested in sports. But my husband was, so you don't necessarily have to have the same interest like that. But you do have to have the same values. You do need to know your values, what you value, what you want, how you want it. Right? You got to plan for the long term when you get married too. When you're trying to get married. When you meet a person, you are on the second and third date, you're supposed to let them know that I want 5 children. I want to live in France. I want to live in the suburbs. I want to make this amount of money. I want to vacation 2 or 3 times a year. I want to do this. These are the things that you express 2 or 3 times in the date or dating a person. The problem is we sleep with people immediately and we forget and we don't really know what we want. We know we want to have sex with that person, but we don't know whether that person wants to have children, has children, can't have children, don't like children, don't want children, whatever. But we jump into the relationship or jump into a situationship without knowing anything about that other person. You are preparing to be married, males and females, women and men. You're preparing to get married. If you're preparing to get married, then be serious about it. Learn to communicate. Learn what you want to do in life. I want to be an electrician and I want to work in Connecticut. I don't know. I want to be a doctor and I want to work in Africa. I want to work in this warehouse, but I want to go back to school so I can be a doctor. These are the things that you express when you're getting to know a person. And they're supposed to let you know the same thing. Okay? The whole point is you're maturing and developing what you want to do. Okay? Learn what commitment and forgiveness is. I forgot about, I wrote that down. Learn what commitment and forgiveness is. People are going to make mistakes. And I've heard a lot of people on here say, if she mess up, I don't want to stay married to her. If he mess up, I don't want to stay married to her. And the biggest mistake people may make is cheating. Cheating. That's one of the biggest mistakes. You have to know whether you're one of those people that walk away or you can weather the storm of cheating. Can you weather the storm of cheating? Only if the person shows you the remorse wholeheartedly for what they have done. If they don't show any remorse for what they have done, they don't show any sorry for what they have done, if they have not shown you anything in that direction, walk away. Because there's some people who know they made a mistake, but they don't want you to walk away. How are they going to atone for that? That is maturity in a human being. Mistakes happen. I'm not saying forgive every person, but what I am saying is you got to know where you stand on that when you get involved with a person, because you know what type of person you get involved with. My mother always used to say to me, you know what type of man you married. Don't come over here complaining about that man. You know what type of man you married. You know you married a hard man. You know you married an unforgiving man. Don't come over here talking about what you ain't and is going to do, and you know what type of man you either want to stay married to that man or you don't. Those are the words that ring in my head, my mother saying to me when I ran home crying. Mistakes happen. Forgiveness, patience, commitment. How do you walk away and you got 5 damn kids? If the person is reckless with your commitment, if they're reckless with the commitment. And these are things you figure out before you get married. Am I going to put up with this reckless shit? Am I the type of person that doesn't want to get married and I want to be in a poly relationship and I don't want to be faithful and I want to do what I want to do? These are the things you figure out before you get married. This is how you prepare yourself to be married. So you don't make mistakes. You want to avoid all of those mistakes. The number one thing people don't do is prioritize the relationship. Are you prepared to prioritize the relationship? A lot of people don't do that. Okay. Hey guys in the audience. Yeah, I'm just doing a monologue here, giving a speech here. If somebody wanted to call, it's slow going. If somebody wanted to call, I would love to hear someone call and tell me what's a priority in relationships. What do you do to prepare yourself? You don't have to be on camera. I don't care about being on camera. Call in, call the number. Call the number. Give me what you think you need to do to prepare to be married. That's the subject. It's on the thumbnail. What do you do to prepare yourself to be married? What did you do to prepare yourself to be married? Or you didn't do anything, or you just flew by the seat of your pants. You never did anything, or you just don't want to be married. But you think this is what people need to do to be in a position to get married. Because we all have to do individual things, right? We all have to prepare ourselves to be married. There's no way I'm going into a marriage and I ain't got no job. I ain't physically well. I'm still sleeping with somebody else. There's things that you prepare. So, what do you do to prepare yourself to have a husband, or you prepare yourself to have a wife? Not with the wife, not with a man calling in and saying, "What is a, what do I want her to do to prepare?" What do you do to prepare if you want to get a wife? Because a lot of people don't know what they need to do in order to get a wife, or a lot of people don't know what to do in order to get a husband. What do you do? Learn yourself is the major thing. The most important things is to communicate and express yourself and be willing to fight. People say, no, you can't have no conflict in no marriage. You can't be fighting. Yes, you can. You can have conflict in your marriage. But it's conflict, not fight, not punching, not slapping, not domestic, what is it called? Domestic, I forgot what that damn thing is called. Domestic abuse or domestic discipline. There it is. Nobody wants to be hit. We go wrong with communication. The number's on the screen, at the bottom of the screen, right here. Boom, boom, boom. Right? And yeah, we all have disputes. We're all going to have arguments. But learning how to argue constructively before you get married. Because a lot of people go into marriage and be cussing people out. You know what I'm saying? They cuss people out. How are you gonna get into a marriage and you love somebody and you're cussing them out? How? Because we often say the wrong thing. We often go too far. Tell me I'm wrong. You be mom, you short peen mug, you know. And we women, we black women, we know we got a mouth. We know we can say these kind of things. We know we can injure people. We know we injure deliberately, preparing, preparing ourselves to get married. This is what we want to do. Okay. Hopefully, people can take a little bit of time. And we have a caller. Steven. I'm fine, thank you, sir. You yeah. What do you have to say on the subject? Oh wow. You say go on a long car trip with someone repeatedly before you get married. That's that. Okay. 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 Well then thank you, Stephen. They can't hear you. My audience can't hear you. So I have to fix that audio thing. But you say go on a long car trip with these people and we'll discuss that. See if someone can come up through the studio. Maybe it's better if they come up through the studio. But thank you for calling me. Thank you. Oh goodness. But you can hear me, right? Maybe that was it. Okay, okay. I'm not sure how that comes through. But this gentleman was talking about um, take a long car ride, several long car rides with a person. But if you take a long car ride, and that's a good thing too, because that you're in close proximity with someone and you figure out what they do wrong, what they say wrong, how they feel, how they don't feel. That's a good idea. Take a long car ride with a person once you get involved with them. And then you'll see how that person performs or acts at a table with other people, relaxed. How you see them, how they see you. Even having a conversation about just obscure things, how much knowledge this person has, how much knowledge this person can give you. It's a good idea to do that. That's a good idea to do that. Somebody write in the comments, write in the comments and tell me something else a person would be able to do in order to get to know another person or get to know themselves, right? Because I'm not sure. I know you have to prepare yourself a lot for certain things. If you don't prepare yourself first, then how are you going to help another person? How do you help another person? How do you do that? I don't know how to do that, right? If I'm not self-aware, right? Self-aware of what I'm trying to accomplish. People do some of the most weird stuff when they don't know what their reaction is going to be when a person presents them with stuff that they have never encountered before. I know that I'm going to react a certain way if a person cheats. I know I'm going to act a certain way if I get cussed out. Okay. Early on, my husband used to be rah, 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 rah. And I said, I'm not a woman who deals with that. Okay. I'm not a person who can deal with that. Somebody wrote in the chat, how can you speak on this topic when your daughters aren't married? But my daughters aren't me. What does my daughters have to do with me? I'm speaking from my experience. You speak from your experience. Maybe my daughters don't want to get married. I don't know. Maybe they do want to get married. I don't know. But I'm not speaking on their experience. I'm speaking on mine and what I found to be important. You speak on what you know, right? People always speak on what they know. I know what it's like to be married. I know communication, conflict resolution, and having understanding of the other person is why a marriage will make it, is why a marriage will work. This is what I do know from my experience. I can't make a person want to get married. You guys, these millennial kids don't want, some of them don't find marriage important. If they don't find marriage important, How am I supposed to make them get married? I don't care whether another human being gets married or not. That's not my concern. My concern is I'm the bigger human being. I'm the person that knows when I walk into a relationship that I'm going to be the best version that I can be. And that means knowing how to communicate, knowing what I want to say, knowing I can't say everything, knowing I want this person to know the best and the worst of me. These are things that I do know help a relationship and a marriage work. Okay? I don't know what other people find important. I do know those are the things that are important that make a marriage work. I didn't stay married for 30 some odd years just because he just was there, right? I stayed married because I was able to get along with another human being. I was able to look at another human being and say, this person has flaws. This person has issues. And I'm willing to live with those. Maturity comes with that. And I asked another person today about the body count thing, right? The person, I said, what about this body count thing you millennial people are so involved with? What about this body count thing? She said, we don't care about that body count thing. We ain't telling nobody our body count. I said, what? I said, what? You're not telling people about the body count thing? Stephen, if you're still there, call in again. Because I want to see if you're here, if they can hear you now. Or anybody call in. I want to see if it's working now, because I'm not sure, right? Hopefully I did the right thing, but I'm not sure. Check if you guys can. Okay. Anybody call in, just see if you can hear. I want to see. You want to see me mad? No, I don't get mad. I get frustrated, but not mad, right? Call in and say hi. I want to see if you guys hear me. Okay, just to say hi, see if it works, because I think it was something I was doing I didn't do something correct, and just to say hi. Okay. So these are the things that we do when we prepare ourselves to be married. I want to be the best version of me. I want to be the best wife. Let's see. We got a call. Let's see.
From Rose. To accept, press 1. To send a voicemail, press 2.
Rose?
Yes.
Can you hear? Stephen, can you hear Rose?
Can you guys hear me?
You guys hear Rose?
A, B, C.
Stephen, can you hear Rose?
Oh, they can't hear me.
Yes, they can. Yes, we can hear. You can hear Rose. Okay, perfect. Now we're in the business. Thank you, Rose.
Okay.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Okay. That's how it
Bye.
works. Okay. Bye. So now we set up with the call-in show. Now we get it. We get it. As long as we can hear her. And that was great advice that Stephen gave us. Commitment, communication. Man, I cannot stress how important it is to be able to communicate and be an adult. I very rarely when I was a kid, I was reading. I kept reading books and things like that about marriage, not specifically marriage, but I read about romance and how the man would treat the woman and how the woman would treat the man. I read a lot of those, right? And I never really went outside. I was a bookworm. And so I learned how I wanted to be talked to. and I learned how I wanted to talk to another human being, right? And I knew I wanted to be in a committed relationship, relationship where I would stay that way. But not a lot of people want to be married that long. Some people want to be married 5 years. They want to be married 10 years. They don't want to, you know what I'm saying? So what works for you doesn't work for me. But I can only say two most important things is the commitment, the communication, and the conflict resolution. Learning how to argue constructively. Knowing that you can't say what you want to say when you want to say it, right? And for my ladies, I don't, it's a lot of men that go around the internet. Well, she has to keep her legs closed and this, that, and the third. Your sexuality is your sexuality. All I say is protect yourself and don't have children. If you don't want to have children, you want to be married to a partner, be married to that partner. And be committed to that when that person comes. Another argument the person I talked to earlier said, why should I stop sleeping with somebody and I may not ever meet the man of my dreams? I couldn't even argue with that. How can I argue with that? Thank you, Rose. Thank you for coming to support. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. But how can I argue with that? She may never meet the man of her dreams. So why is she doing the things she's doing and stop living along the way, right? She wanted to continue to live. She wanted to continue to love. She wanted to be her own person and meet the person of her dreams. She didn't think body count was important. I'm one of those people that I don't believe body count is important either. Specifically, I'm not telling people my body count. You know what I'm saying? We're not telling people our body count. That's one thing I would tell people. It's not something that comes up in conversation, so don't mention it. If somebody's going to be directly asking you, you have to make a decision as to whether you want to tell this person or not. I'm not saying outright lie, but I'm saying if the person doesn't ask, don't worry about it. Let them get to know you. Let them get to know you. What if you're a really good person? What if you're a really good person and when you were young and you're 30 years old and you don't have any children, but you were reckless with your body in your teens, you don't have any diseases, you don't have anything like that, but you were reckless with your body and you have 19 bodies, but you don't have any children. Do you tell your partner, I have 19 bodies? Even though you know those 19 bodies don't make a difference to how you feel about that person or the fact that you can make a commitment to that person? I'm not encouraging people to be promiscuous. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, what good would it do to tell him that you have 19 bodies? How would someone know you had 19 bodies unless you told them? Does that make me more or less of a person that can make a commitment because I got 19 bodies? Men have bodies all over the place. Average dudes have bodies all over the place. That doesn't mean they can be better husbands than we can be wives. I'm not advocating for people to have bodies. What I am advocating for is don't ask, don't tell. That's something that's needless to say. It's like throwing your monkey in the wrench, and you really didn't need to do that. And I understand being honest and upfront. Sometimes you can be too honest. You know what? Your dick is too small. He ain't gonna like that. You know what? You don't know how to sex me the way I want you to sex me. He ain't gonna want to hear that. Sometimes you don't say everything that you want to say. Well, the other day you had you looked fat in that dress. You don't say everything that you want to say. Being an adult is knowing how to be tactful, knowing how to be relationship focused. That's relationship focused. Learning not to say everything you want to say. Right? That's the whole point of being mature. What do you need to do in order to prepare yourself to be married? Commitment, learning what a commitment is, learning what a commitment is. A lot of people don't even know what that is. Learning what a commitment is to another person, learning to think outside yourself and think of the other person first. You think that you're supposed to just care about yourself. You have to learn to make room in yourself for another person. Someone says body speaks to a woman's character to a man. That's why she doesn't need to tell you what her body count is. Because you don't know what her character is. You don't know what her character is until you meet her, until you talk to her, until you sit down and have a conversation. I'm married to you, Stephen, for 10 years. And then all of a sudden, and we're happy. We're doing our thing. All of a sudden, we get into a conversation and I say, oh man, I slept with 8 men before I met you. What do you say then? Do you say, I don't want to be married to you now? But you've been with me for 10 years. What do you mean? That's what I'm saying. It should never have a discussion. You shouldn't ask questions that you don't want to know the answers to. And a woman should never mention that particular thing. And I get it. It's important. But it should never be, you don't want to know the answer, don't ask. If you have a question about that woman, you should be walking away. If you have a question about that woman. Okay? But it's not a matter of I'm not one of those people that subscribe to the fact that if I had 10 bodies or 5, if I'm 30 and I had 10 bodies before I married my husband, that I'm less of a woman or I'm less of wife material because I had 10 bodies before I married my husband. I'm not one of those people that subscribe to that. And I don't think of a man being less than if he has 10 bodies. I'm one of those people that believes body count only matters if you have a disease. I just take that stand because I can't be willy-nilly with, oh, okay, she has 5 bodies, she's not a hoe. But if she has 6 bodies, she's a hoe. Or 10 bodies, she's not a hoe. But 12 bodies, she's a hoe. See, I can't do that with people. I can't do that with people. So if people ask me, well, how many people I slept with, I say 1. So how do you know I didn't sleep with just 1? You don't know that. You don't know that. But I'm not going to tell you that because that's not your business, or that's not your way to judge me. It's a different story if I act like a hoe, parade around with hoes, do whorish things, wear whorish outfit. It's another thing. Then you have a reason to question my body count. But if I dress normally, act normally, go to work, school, do all of these things, then you shouldn't question what kind of character I have, regardless of whether I had 10 bodies or not. You would know I had 10 bodies unless I told you. I don't have any kids. You don't know how many bodies I have. So that's why I tell women, don't tell people how many bodies you got, because it doesn't matter. Because I can lie. And he can lie. Right? But the whole point is to know that and that comes with being a mature human being. Mature human beings understand it's going to be a number that you're not going to like regardless. So why would I tell you the number? What's important is the commitment. What's important is the communication. What's important is that conflict resolution that you know how to have with another human being. Okay. And it's I never asked my husband how many women he slept with. I never asked him that question. He never asked me. When you're willing to make that commitment to another person and that person is rocking with you and you're rocking with that person, that's not a question that comes up. And my husband was a handsome man. My husband was a really gorgeous man. Straight white teeth, muscular body, big shoulders, flat stomach, boom, 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 single. He was living, my husband was living in, he was a correctional officer, and he was a correction officer, and he was like a lieutenant, and he was living in the prison dorms. He was living in the dorms that they had built for employees. There were dorm rooms built on the property of the prison property that the guards could live in. And so he was living there and he was doing his thing. But not once did I have asked him, how many women been in here? How many women been in his room? How many women have you been seeing? Not once. Because I wanted to get to know that person. I wanted to get to know him, not his sexual history. And he never asked me because he wanted to get to know me and not my sexual history. Because I didn't come across as a hoish person. I didn't dress hoish. I didn't cuss like a sailor. I didn't smoke weed and drink. I didn't do any of that. How you see me here is how I was there. Yes, Stephen, the call-in works now. The call-in works now. You want to call back in? If you want to call back in, call back in. It works now. So how I am now is how he met me. Except I'm a little bit older, right? 30 years, right? You know, up until my husband passed away, we moved when he first passed away, we moved to Atlanta, right? And we were like, oh man, we ain't got no kids in the house. We're gonna do our thing. We're gonna walk around naked. We're gonna do our thing, right? We moved here in July and he died in January. 6 months later, after we moved here. And then I had to reevaluate, you know, what the hell, what I was going to do on this planet. I was only 50. That's pretty young, but our children were grown, right? Because we had our children when we were young, right? We got a caller. Who we got? Let's see.
Call from.
Stephen James.
To accept, press 1. To send a voicemail, press 2.
Hello, Steve.
Hello, can everybody hear me?
Yeah, let's see. ZMW, can you hear Stephen?
La 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 la.
I'm hoping. Well, nobody said yes. They can hear you. Okay, perfect. What do you have to say?
Okay.
What's going on?
Okay. Well, I can see and I somewhat agree with you on some of your points. With the men, number one, do we really want to know what the body count is? Yes and no. Okay.
Right.
But and when I said that the body count speaks to a woman's character,
right.
Because no man, there was a movie that Bernie Mac was in where it was him and he was sitting around a table with a bunch of families. It might have been a Tyler Perry movie or something like that.
Okay.
But he remembered one of the guy's wives from back in the day. And he said, oh, you a lucky man. You a lucky man. Oh, yeah, she could suck a bowling ball if it was strong, whatever. No man wants to be that guy. No man wants to be walking through the mall and then with him and his wife or whatever, And then a guy comes up to them and doesn't think that they're married or whatever, and say, "Hey, shorty, how are you? I haven't seen you for a while, whatever, what up, blah, blah, blah." And the energy that they give off, the husband might be like, "Yo, what the heck is going on here?" Or they go into like a club or something or whatever, and then everybody's giving the side eye to him and looking at her like, "Yo, is that something such?" No man wants that situation.
Right.
So I get what you're saying,
but do you? But what if she says early on in you all's dating relationship? What if 2 or 3 dates in, she says, "I really don't want to deal with a man who slept with more than 5 women." What would you say if you had slept with more than 5 women?
Okay, then that's where honesty comes in, and that's where you got to stand on your square. That's where you got to say, okay, well, I have. And it depends on the age, too, that we're talking about, because, 30 is different than 50. Right. 25 is different than 16.
Right.
There are 15-year-old girls now and 14-year-old girls now who they see nothing wrong with having oral sex with a boy, period.
That's true.
But their mindset is limited on that view. So I'm, like I said, for me, looking at things like that is different when you're 25, 22, whatever.
This millennial crowd is just, this group of kids are different. They're just different from what we, you say blue, they say green. I don't even know. I tell them, if you're going to be honest, because you're trying to have a mature conversation with a person that you're looking to marry, right? But what if I don't want to lose you? What if I know I have to? What if I don't want to lose you? Everything is going correct. Everything is going absolutely fine. And I know that I have 7 bodies on my head, and I'm 30 and you're 30, and you say, you in casual conversation, you say 7 bodies is too much.
Well, hey, but that's life. Choices, decisions, consequences. Either party might look at
take the chance and say no.
If you're going to be honest, and that's part of the problem. Part of the problem to me is, in society, be who you are and stand on that. Understand what you were and what you didn't do. If I was a 6-time felon dating somebody, wouldn't you want to know that? Oh, well, that was just, that was 5 years ago or 6 years ago, whatever. Isn't that still information that you want to know?
Right.
So, again,
that's something that can I don't know.
I agree.
I just don't. I'm one of those people that believe
right. I agree, but to that,
it's not a major thing. I just believe if it's not a disease, then it's not a major. You don't have a disease. It's not a major thing. See?
Yeah, and I get that. So it depends on how the person or the party, the dating parties, view that. They might view it on that level, and they might view it on your level. Right. But see, the other thing is just because you had all these dating partners whenever, just because you test negative for a disease now, doesn't mean 6 months after I've been dating you that all of a sudden you go to the doctor and a random blood test comes up and you got something and it's serious.
Yeah.
Now the person who may not know that you had all these bodies, do you tell them? So you see the rabbit hole, the hill that you're going down.
Right.
And especially now you can't tell me STDs aren't at an all-time high in every age bracket.
People are not, because people are out here not using protection.
Like dummies.
How in this world are you rolling around here not using protection? I don't understand that one right there. What are you doing?
Because they're dummies. They don't care.
You can lose your life behind that. Everybody should be using protection for the first 6 months you're in a relationship until you're sure of the person and you guys have went to the doctor together and got that test. So you know that this person doesn't have anything. If you both have HIV, then you know you can work with each other. Or you know both know
Right.
if you have herpes, you can work with each other. But before
Right.
you do all of that sexual thing, you need to be using protection. And women shouldn't be getting pregnant 2 months after you meet someone, right? But they're doing
Right.
it.
Right.
People are doing this kind of stuff. And it's like, what are we doing here? No care and concern. No, don't know what a commitment is. Don't know how to communicate effectively. And then they're trying to conduct relationships. And they're failing,
Yeah.
right? So that's the title. How do you prepare yourself to be not necessarily just in a relationship or in a marriage, but relationship period? How do you put yourself in a relationship or prepare yourself for a relationship if you know you don't know? That's another thing. What does a person do if they don't know what they don't know? What would you do, Stephen?
Exactly right. So then you come to now this is if the situation goes really bad, right? So then you have a decision that you have to make. Now suppose, okay, so let's suppose, you know, the guy's got 7-10 bodies on, and we'll say they're 25 and he's dating a 21-year-old woman, right? And they're dating for 6 months.
Wow.
You know, he's all of a sudden he takes a blood test for whatever reason or does a physical, and he comes back with something serious, right?
Right.
So now he's in a position to where, okay, do I even tell this other person about this? And if I do, like CMW in the chat says, well, what if there's a nice person and they have all the qualities that you like?
Right.
Yeah, but you're putting them at risk. So it depends on, number one, your character. Are you going to be forthcoming about what you just found out? And do you give the other person, the other sentient thinking being, an opportunity to make their own decision about whether or not they should deal with you or not? Because suppose that you come, or the male comes up with something that the female already has, but didn't feel like sharing at the time. And she had it a while ago. Now he's got it, but not from her.
Wow.
Then, like you said, with the 2 HIV things or whatever, now they're on the same playing field.
Right.
It gets tricky when the playing field is not even.
So
that's the problem.
Do you recommend people with preparation of being in a relationship? Do you recommend them having a testing together, or they wait, or what do you recommend for that?
Okay. So I would recommend, first of all, everybody get tested at least once a year, you know,
right.
whether you're with somebody or not, because that way you automatically know where you're at. Now, if you meet somebody a month after you test negative or positive, now you know where you stand. And as a relationship grows with another person, then you eventually come to that crossroad where, okay, do I tell this person or not? Now, if you're already with somebody, let's say for like 6 months, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like you just said, nobody wants to use birth control because we have different ideas about that. Why we don't.
Tell to me, people don't want to use birth control. That is wild. I don't understand that. What's going on?
I think that would be a show. That'll be a topic for a whole nother show.
No, right?
But I will say is that you when you care about something, you take care of it,
right.
No matter what it is.
Right.
If you care about the car that you drive,
right.
You don't try and drive 90 miles an hour everywhere you go and drive recklessly and drive drunk.
Okay.
If you care about yourself,
right.
You don't have that many bodies without protection. Period. End of story.
That's right.
If you care about $100 bill, you are not, when you leave the house, going to leave your wallet open and just say, okay, well, if it falls out and somebody else gets it, it falls out. Who cares? No.
So you kind of pulling me over there. You kind of pulling me over there where I say, yeah, maybe you should be disclosing certain things. I mean, that's a part of being mature. I guess
right.
You put me in that quandary. Okay, I got to think about it a little bit more. I got to think.
Yeah.
Because I've
Well,
always been of the stance that if you don't have a disease, then it shouldn't be a matter. It shouldn't matter. But then you put me
right.
on the spot when you said that one. You gave me that other example, and I was like, really? Jail? You've been in prison? Yeah,
Right.
that makes sense. Oh, okay. So that's a part of that's a part of preparing yourself to be mature, this maturity factor. A lot of people
Absolutely.
maturity factor, right?
Absolutely.
It's like we just flying by the seat of our pants. This relationship we don't know what we doing. But you're supposed to have stuff together before you get into a relationship, right? You're supposed to know how you're gonna react to somebody cheating. You want to know how you're gonna react maturely when someone cheats, right?
Exactly.
Not be ready to shoot everybody in the room, but be mature about it.
Woo.
Understand your role in that cheating, right? Understand, because people don't cheat for no reason. I don't care what nobody says. People don't cheat for no reason, right? If you're in a relationship and you cheat, you don't cheat for no reason. There's a reason why you did what you did. Was it something I wasn't doing? Was it something you lacked in yourself? That's why I'm encouraging people and saying, have you prepared yourself to be a husband? Have you prepared yourself to be a wife? Do you understand what will put triggers on another person when you say this?
Right.
That, right? And people just walking around doing whatever they want to do without not thinking about the consequences of shouting or cussing at another person. That's why I very rarely get angry with people, because people are not people. Someone said to me the other day, well, why doesn't it bother you people? Because people are just living their lives. They're not trying to hurt me. They're living their lives. So I don't concern myself with getting mad with people when they do things like that. When they do stuff to irritate me and get mad and those kind of things. Because I've learned to have conflict resolution. I have learned that people have motivations and things they say to get on the nerves of other people. Maybe they're not as mature as another human being. Maybe they don't have the skills to navigate being in a relationship. But us,
and that's why.
Go ahead.
Oh, excuse me. I said, and I'm thinking, and that's why I think that the decade that somebody is thinking about getting married matters. Right. There's a difference between thinking about getting married at 40 than 25. But I would suggest for anybody thinking about getting married, try and find some kind of premarital counseling or some kind of premarital book that both of you would agree on. Hey, let's read this book together. Let's talk about these points in this book together. Mm-hmm. That way you establish a common ground for expectations, and you have an outlook of maybe there's a situation in that book that y'all didn't think about.
Right. Right.
So, life is not hunky-dory dandy for everybody every day.
Right.
So thinking about, okay, well, if I marry this person, of course, do I want kids? Do I not want kids? Right. But the other question is, okay, well, what happens if we both want kids, but somehow, some way, one of us can't have kids, right, or worse,
right,
the child doesn't survive? How are we going to handle that as a couple?
Right. Right.
Things like that. So marriage is a big step, and most people, younger people, don't take it seriously because it's so easy to walk in and walk out.
Right. Right.
It's like a train station.
I'm not saying that marriage is I'm not saying anything about marriage being easy. Not at all. I mean, I was with my husband for 30 years. From when I was in my early 20s to my early 20s until my early 50s, right?
Right.
I'm not saying that marriage is easy. I'm saying there was plenty of days where I had to walk out the door and cool myself off. And I'm sure he had to walk out the door and cool himself off many times. Because as I'm talking to you, this is how I talk to him. I never raised my voice. I never called him out of his name. I never said he had a small peen. I never did any of those things, right? I wish I wasn't married to you. I wish I never said those kind of things. I just knew, because I had read so many books when I was a teenager, when I was a kid. I had read so many books about romance and how to treat a person and this, that, and the third, that I knew walking away if I could not express myself well, walking away was the best answer. Or I found that he was not capable of expressing himself without hurting me, that I walked away.
Right.
See,
Right.
I was mature in my dealings with him, right? At least I thought so. I was mature, but he was not mature. Or, looking back on it, I say he was not in a space where he knew how to say things and not hurt me, right? So I learned to walk away early when I heard something that hurt me. So when I did that enough times to walk away, when he hurt me with the things he said, he suddenly figured out that he needed to grab my hand and say, "Where are you going? Why are you leaving?" Right?
Right.
And and one day he did that. "Why do you always run off when we're in the middle of an argument?"
Keep from killing you, nigga.
And so, this was early. This was early in our marriage, because we got married when we was in our 20s, right? We were 20. I think I was 22 and he was 24. Early in our marriage. We don't know jack shit. You don't know jack shit, right?
Yeah.
Just flying by the seat of your pants, because it is what it is. So he grabbed my hand, said, "Why are you running off? Every time we get in an argument, you run off." And I turned to him. I remember turning to him and saying, "Because I don't want to say things to hurt you the way you hurt me." Okay.
Wow. Yeah.
And I remember being in this parking lot after an argument that we had. And I was over a girlfriend's house. And he came to pick, the kids. He either came to drop the kids off to me, or I was dropping the kids off to him. I don't know. But I remember him stopping me because I was angry with him. He had done something. I was angry with him, right? And he stopped me from getting in the car, in my car. He had a car, I had a car. And he said, "I don't want to be married to you if we got to argue like this." Stop me cold stop me in my tracks.
Right.
"I don't want to be married to you if we got to fight like this. And we have to do this, say this, anything." And from that time on, he never said anything that was something I couldn't live with. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He said, "Because you always," and when I got home, I got home, I hadn't come. I wouldn't come home for a little while later. But I thought about it I thought about it all day until I got home with him. And I told him, I said, "You don't realize that you hurt me when you say certain things. Please stop saying those things. Otherwise, this marriage is not going to last." Right?
Right. And people got to know what their triggers are. Yeah. And when they find out, do exactly what you did. Hey, this is a big trigger. Hey.
And so from that was early in our marriage. And it was amazing. We never, after that early, I think we must have been maybe 27, 28 when this happened. But after that, we never had a conversation where he was rah, rah, rah. Because he worked at a prison, right? And
Oh, okay, yeah.
when you work at a prison, you got to be a certain way.
Yes, you do.
And he would bring that home. See, so when he realized he was bringing that home, we got along better.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We just got along better, you know, and we loved more. We loved more. We made love more,
Yeah.
right? So I mean,
Yep.
it was a matter of learning to communicate, learning to resolve those conflicts that we had. And it was a good thing that we, you know, he had friends, and he had a good friend that he spoke to and he talked to. And whenever that good friend came over, I would leave them alone, let them have a conversation, because he needed an outlet. He needed to talk to another man, another set of men.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He needed those friendships for them to empathize and sympathize with him and say, hey, you need to speak to your wife a certain way. And I realized he was having conversations with these people, and he was becoming a better husband, a better person. I'm not saying I'm perfect. Absolutely, I'm not perfect. But I'm not a hyena. I'm not a verbal hyena. This is the way I speak to you, regardless of how it's going. Because there's
right. And those were good friends,
right,
on his side,
right,
that gave him good advice.
right, right.
Where's all those kind of people now?
I walked out the door and not come back, right?
Yeah.
But I didn't. But he made me want. Okay, we're going to make this commitment work. We have these children, 5 children. We're going to do this, and we did it. So I'm saying, I'm not saying I'm excellent at these things. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, I know what you cannot do in a marriage, in a relationship, and it survives. You cannot. You have to understand how you fight.
So I got a question.
Yes.
My question is, so are you trying to say you do marriage counseling on the side? Because it's needed. Certain people need it.
What?
Certain people need it. You might want to look into that.
Right. I mean, that was my profession. My profession was counseling.
There you go.
So I did that for about 20 odd years until I retired. I worked in the jails. I counseled. I counseled people who broke the law, and I counseled people who wanted to be married, and I counseled homeless people. I mean, I did that for like 20 odd years. So I was used to speaking with people and people reacting rah, 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 and me having to have control of myself in order to help these people. But in the meantime, I was married for those 30 years. And believe me, we learned to communicate with each other. We learned to not call each other the B word. That was one of the things that he never called me the B word or the C word or anything like that. He never did that. But he'd be like, that's stupid. That's a stupid idea you came up. You just, sometimes you come across as stupid. You see what I'm saying? How damaging that is. So he learned not to do that. Early, he learned not to do, you just doing stupid stuff, or you talking stupid, or like that. And that's damaging. That's damaging.
Yes, it is.
Relationship. But I would run away when he would start. I don't want to eat that food. I don't want to eat that. That's just dumb. You just make dumb. You know what I'm saying? And I would run. And I would run away. Right?
Oh, yes, indeed.
Before the love got out of there, before the love ran away, he grabbed me and said, "Why are you running?" And then I was honest with him. Because I don't like the way you talk to me. Because I'm not, you do this. I don't like it. And we adjusted ourselves. And I'm saying people don't adjust themselves in relationships these days.
I don't think the culture breeds that anymore.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, everything is all me, I, selfie.
Right.
So that is going to be the younger generations, in my opinion. That's going to be their tough road to hoe.
Right.
How can you build with somebody? How can you think that you're going to get ready to marry somebody when, from what, whenever cell phones got invented and started, thank God that we didn't have them when I was in high school, but it's all about me. How many TikToks, how many followers, how many this, how many that do I have? Where's the we?
Right.
Where is the we in anything?
You see, another thing that I recommend, put your cell phone down for 2 hours of the day. Put your cell phone down 3 hours of the day. Not get away from it. You know what I'm saying? Not leave it at home or something. But, you know, for 2 or however you need to do it, 2 or 3 hours of the day, and enjoy being in the moment with the person that you're involved with, the person you say you want to be in love with, the person you say you want to build relationships with. Be one of those people that are present every day, at least 2 or 3 hours of the day. You know what I'm saying? Because people are on the phone all the time. They're doing this, they're doing that. They're not paying attention to the people that are in their lives. Pay attention to the people that are in your life, right? And be the best version that you can be of yourself. And the only way to be the best version in a marriage is to know yourself, know your triggers. Me and my husband, we got married when we were in our 20s. What the hell do I know? You know what I'm saying? At 22, what the hell do I know? I barely know how to wipe my ass and clean behind my ears. What the hell do I know? And what do you know at that age? That's why I say, if you're gonna make and stumble around each other early, have grace. Have grace for that person. That person may not know, but that person was willing to make a commitment, right? Have grace.
Absolutely.
When you're older and you're 40, all of these kinks should be worked out about yourself. The kinks about yourself should be worked out, right or wrong.
Oh, absolutely. Remember that book series, Don't Sweat the Small Stuff?
Right.
As you grow with a person, y'all will figure out what's worth arguing about, what's worth disturbing the peace about.
Right.
In one of my managerial classes, my instructor said, you always have to think about it this way. When you're talking to somebody, do you want to be right or happy?
Yes.
Period, end of story. What's the goal here?
Right.
You know, if there's no harm, no foul, yes, dear. Right. And keep it moving. Everything don't have to be, you know, ABC daytime television drama. No, keep it moving. We got stuff to do.
Yes. Okay, hon, I'll do that. And then you know what you really need to do. But you have made that person, you have settled that person's apprehension. Settling another person's apprehension about the role they have in the relationship. I'm not one of those people I can deal with all this drama every day. I can't deal with drama every day. I can't wonder where you at 2:00 in the morning. You know what I'm saying?
I don't like that Taco Bell HQ.
I ain't gonna be able to do it. I'm not gonna be able to do it. I ain't gonna be able to do it. You went to the club with your boys, but the club was over at 2:00, but you ain't walking to do it till 5:00. I ain't gonna be able to do it with you. See what I'm saying? I can't.
Right.
I can't do it with you. This is why I tell young people, know yourself. When you know yourself, you know how you're going to react, and you don't pull those things into your life. Some people like drama. Some people like that drama. Some people like that acting up all the time, not fighting, fussing, putting their hands on people. All of this. That's not how to conduct a marriage. That's not how to be married. That's not how to make a marriage work or last. It breeds resentment. It breeds contempt when you continuously put drama in the middle of your relationship and think it's going to last. You do know two people who have conflict and drama all the time do get tired of drama sometime, right? Right? One of y'all had that drama at some point. Right? So we say, learn to get that resolved early. Know how you want to put yourself in a position to be married. Learn the commitment, what it means to be committed. That means I keep my body over here with my husband. This is stuff we got to tell people, right?
And that's the funny thing. The funny thing and the sad thing.
Right.
Because let's say a 21-year-old girl and a 23-year-old man hear this show 6 months from now. Mm-hmm. What are they going to take away from it? You know what I mean? Right. Because people out there, that they will not get any kind of information like this from anybody that they're around.
Right.
Period. End of story. And that's the sad, but that's the way the world is.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, yeah, I don't even know what age category would even be thinking about marriage these days. Are older people still wanting the desire to get married? Younger, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60?
Right.
Who knows? But again, for me, it goes down to number one, know yourself.
Right.
Ask yourself, am I ready, willing, and able to grow with somebody? Once we trip on each other's triggers,
right.
What do?
Right.
Is foul language and harmful physical interaction, is that going to be permitted? Do I want that?
Right.
Where will that get me?
Mm-hmm.
Where do we see us in 5 years? Another 5 years.
Right.
Another 5 years. Well, wait a minute. I don't know if I'm going to love this person 5 years from now or want to be with this person 5 years from now. Okay, well, do you love them today? Do you want to be with them today?
Right.
Because we're not promised 5 minutes from now.
Right.
So what you want to do?
Right. Do you want to wait around and then look for something else to come along that's better? Then you shouldn't even be with that particular person to begin with. If you're looking for something better, when you're with that person needs to be whole. And we want grown human beings to be getting married. We want whole human beings.
Exactly. With good standards, good morals, and good for each other.
Right. And
be the example.
This is what I mean by living yourself. Are you one of those people that understand how to communicate with other people without slapping another person? Are you understanding what role you want to play in a marriage? I understand you want to marry a man who got money. I get it. I do. You want to be, but in this economy, you cannot expect to be taken care of because we both got to work. What does that look like? A husband can't say, I want her to sit at home and you don't make enough money. This economy does not foster a single household that makes money. It means two people got to make it work. Do we have children early or do we have children later? Are we saving money or are we not saving money? Do we have people around us that look at our marriage and our relationship in a good light where we have support? If something goes wrong, do we have support?
Exactly right.
You know, are we planning long term? We know we can't afford a baby right now. Don't come up pregnant. We got to use birth control because we know we don't make enough money to have a baby. Are we talking about that first? You know that you work in a factory. You know you make $20 an hour in the factory. That's $1,000 a week or whatever it is. You know you need to make more money in order to afford a family, or you need to have someone who makes $20 an hour right along with you to make the marriage and a relationship work, because this economy says you need more than one person to make money. Why is it that people are scared to get into a house and rent a house together? Two single people rent a house together to afford that house. Two people get into an apartment and have a bedroom and afford that apartment together the way rent and food and all that stuff is going. We are such an individual country that people don't know how to share responsibility. You notice how the Mexican folks know how to do it, right?
I was just about to say, it depends on the culture that you're talking about. And maybe we should do like a 1, 2, 3 by the end of the show of things that people should think about.
Right.
But yeah, definitely, probably to prepare yourself for marriage. What is your view on money? What is your view upon saving? What is your view of exactly what you said? Okay, we've been dating for 8 months. We think that we're ready to make this, or a year, we think we're ready to make this into a marriage. Okay, financially, how are we going to look at the bills together? Are we having joint accounts, separate accounts?
Right.
What are we going to figure out? Who pays the light bill? Who pays the cable bill and all this other stuff? Blah, blah, blah. And what if one party wants to purchase something,
right,
and the other party's like, we don't need that.
Yeah.
But, oh, well, I got to have it. Exactly right.
Right. These are things.
So
nobody is thinking about how to prepare yourself. Plans and long-term plans, long-term investments. Are we investing together? Are we investing separately? Are we understanding that money is a tool when you become a certain age? Me and my husband never really we just flew by the seat of our pants. My husband never thought a damn thing about credit. Never thought a thing about credit. But I got him one credit card, right?
Oh, there you go.
I had like 30. He only had one, right? He never thought nothing about credit. I'm going to pay cash and I ain't going to spend no money. Honey, in order to get a house, we're going to need some kind of track record. In order to do, we need a track record. So my job in that marriage was to have the credit, was to make sure things flowed the way they flowed. He gave me the money. Like my husband, this is how my husband did it. We were married, and he said, I'm gonna give you a set amount every week and don't ask for nothing else. You have a job, you need to supplement if it come down to that. So I said, okay. He gave me, for example, $1,000 a week. Okay.
Right.
He said, don't let no lights go off. The rent got to be paid. Our car notes got to be paid, blah, 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 blah. And then your money supplements whatever need to be done, whatever. So that was our agreement. All throughout us being married, all those years, he would give me a certain amount of money and I would make it work. And then any kind of investment or anything like that, I had to do that. Vacations, I had to come up with that. All of those things. He just was, I'm not saying, look, when people hear this, they're going to say, well, that was a shitty husband. He let you do everything. Hindsight is 20/20. maybe he should have did something different, but that's the way we made our marriage work. The whole point is you have to figure out how you want your marriage to work.
Exactly right. And I was just about to touch on that.
Right.
Y'all two came to an agreement
Mhm.
on your plan and your direction,
Right.
and y'all made it work. Now, I'm pretty sure by hearing you talk, and I don't know your husband, but I'm sure if an adjustment needed to be made, y'all would make it
Right.
together.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, and that goes back to the where's the we now in our society? It's I. Now, you were talking about the Spanish people, how they get together and rent a house or whatever. I see it all the time.
Right.
And they're driving, the men, they're driving brand new big pickup trucks or whatever because they're all pooling their money.
Right. Right.
Here is the story. And everybody gets to a level where everybody's comfortable and they work towards that goal. If you are an I person, again, there's no I in team. Well, a marriage is a team.
Right.
If you honestly can't look at yourself and say, I can't see giving somebody $500, $1,000 or whatever a week out of my check, then you don't need to be married.
Right.
Because
It wasn't a matter of people say, well, these days when men are like, she ain't gonna get my money and blah blah blah. You decide who's the most financially savvy between you two. Who knows?
Exactly.
And most people these days gonna say, I know how to spend my money. You ain't got to spend my money. But you have to have a pool that pushes forward this marriage, right? You have to have a pool that pushes this marriage forward in the things that you want to do. You give me 500 and I put 500, or however you need to, however it makes you all's relationship work, right? You can't do how I did. My husband knew that I didn't drink, smoke weed. He knew I wasn't that type of person. So he knew that I would spend the money on what he gave me to spend the money on, right? Some of y'all get in relationships and you know you can't give her no money.
And I was going to touch on that, because if you have that kind of attitude, if you can't trust that person with your money, you shouldn't be involved with that person.
That's right.
Because again, it goes back to people protect and take care of what they value.
Right. Right.
If they don't value your money, they're not going to value what it took for you to make that money. They're not going to care.
That's correct. And people are
So
with that.
And how can I build long term with somebody who don't care that I got to work 50 hours a week?
Right. And I say to them, look, you have to do what it takes to make your marriage work. Okay? How I made my marriage work, I looked at that person and said, this person understands this. This person understands that. This person agrees with me on this. But I don't agree with this person doing this. But I can live with that. Okay? He wasn't reckless with money. He wasn't reckless with his peen.
Right.
I didn't have to worry about him looking at other women. He would do this dumb thing, right? This is the dumbest. He would say, I would say, well, why you can go on out there and deal with whatever woman you want to. And he would pull his pockets out inside. And he said, I ain't got no money, ain't no woman gonna deal with me except you. And I would be assured because of that. I would be assured because I knew he meant it, right?
Yeah.
I knew that he meant it, that he was committed. And I knew he was a good father, and I knew he was a good man with the children. I just knew he showed me these things before I got married. He was mature. He was a mature man.
Right.
Except he had not been in a long-term relationship with someone, and his communication was subpar, and conflict resolution was subpar, right? But I was willing to work with that. I was willing to work with that. When I walked away, and I said I walked away whenever we got into an argument, I walked out. I meant I walked out. I wasn't walking out on the marriage. I was walking for him to cool off and for me to cool off. It wasn't a matter of, oh man, I'm finna walk out the door and I ain't finna come back and I don't want to be bothered with you no more. It was never that. I never looked at it. I never went that far and said, I don't want to be married to this person no more. I never.
Right.
Because I knew he was a good human being. Right? You're supposed to find a good human being who has these who's mature enough to understand conflict resolution. Sooner or later, conflict resolution, it comes into your mind. I can't say what I want to say. I can't do what I want to do. I don't have a ball and chain on you. You have to come to that conclusion yourself that you need to be a decent human being, that you need to be a person who can't say what they want, how they want. You have to come to that resolution. My husband came to that resolution. Why are you running? Because I don't like the way you talk to me.
And another point, again, if somebody doesn't have that type of attitude, flag number one, you're not ready to be married.
Mm-hmm. And
you're just not.
You continue to do the same thing over and over. When I pointed out to you, when a person points out to you, if you keep beating my head against the wall and I let you, then it's your problem and their problem, right? Because I keep letting you without saying what's wrong. I'm not saying I had the best conflict resolution. My answer to conflict was to run away. You see how that was the wrong way to do things too? Running away.
You learned and you grew. You learned and you grew.
Right.
And the person that you did that to, they learned and they grew by, I don't want to say putting up with that because that's not the right word, but by experiencing that. Mm-hmm. And then, like you said, you knew he had good character. He knew that you had good character.
Right.
So when you did walk away in anger, you coming back and you ain't coming back, with hickeys on your neck because you decided to
because that happens, right?
No.
You don't know what these young kids be doing. You don't know.
Exactly right.
So
exactly right.
I'm going to have this talk. We're going to have the talk about marriage, relationship. We're going to have these kind of talks like every other day. We're going to have these talks because I want to hear from people. I want people to call in and say, what's on their mind, marriage-wise, relationship-wise? Are they willing to do conflict resolution? Are they willing to be a part of a growing relationship? Are you willing to be honest with your partner, right? And a lot of people are not willing to be honest up front immediately. And I get it. You don't want to lose that person. But you got to be honest with yourself first. You got to have self-reflection, accountability for yourself. You got to be conflict, not adverse. You got to welcome that conflict. What do you think, Stephen?
I agree with you. And something you just said just triggered it in my little brain here that not only do you have to be honest, one of the biggest questions that a person has to ask themselves before they marry somebody is, am I willing to be honest? And honesty brings vulnerability.
Right.
If I'm not willing, if I don't trust this person's character, if I don't see this person's good traits, if I don't think I can build with this person, if I don't see a we, I am not going to put myself out there to be vulnerable to that person.
Right.
Am I willing to be vulnerable with this one person
Mm-hmm.
in a long-term relationship to be able to share my deepest emotions and thoughts with only this one person?
Mm-hmm.
And am I confident that this person won't use that information against me no matter what?
I've heard that women do that. Women, that's part of the reason why men don't want to be vulnerable with women, because they don't know how to handle your emotions. That's a fault on them. That's not a fault on the man. That's a fault on the woman who laughs at a man who cries, that treats him like he's a weak person because he wants to express himself. That's the lack of that maturity we were talking about, right, Stephen?
Absolutely. And they haven't seen examples of what it's like for a strong man, what it takes for him to cry. Now, I'm not talking about nug. I'm not talking about, somebody 15 or 16 who's emotionally immature.
Right.
I'm talking about if you see, or you're in a relationship with your person, and you call them up and you can tell there's something wrong.
Right.
Or you come through the door and they're sitting at the table and their head is down and you see tears. Right. You know that it's something serious. Maybe he just lost one of his dearest friends or his family member. Mm-hmm. How dare you ever in life use that against a man or a woman and say, oh, well, you cry like a little girl. I just lost my mom 2 years ago. Right. What you talking about?
Right.
That type of thing.
And we hear a lot of that coming from the men, that the women concern themselves about what they feel as opposed to what we feel or what he feels. And no man wants to be vulnerable in a relationship and you laugh at him. You don't know how to take his emotions. And that comes from you being a mature, it comes from you being a mature individual who knows how to navigate you should know how to navigate your emotions already before you get into that relationship. The whole point of being in a relationship is to learning how to navigate another person's emotions. You don't know how to navigate yours, you can't help them with theirs. So therefore, you shouldn't be in a relationship until you figure out how you want to navigate your life. And a lot of us miss that mark. I know what I'm going to say most of the time. I know because I'm 50 odd years old, 57, 58 years old. I know what I'm going to say. I know what I accept. I know what I like.
Yep.
But a lot of people don't at the tender age of 20 and 30 because you haven't explored yourself yet. That doesn't mean sexually that you need to explore yourself sexually. I'm not saying do it or don't do it. What I'm saying is get to know what you like, how you like to be treated, how you like to say what you say. When me and my husband got into that early fighting, and he would say, "You're stupid. You don't know. That's a dumb move. You're doing some dumb shit." He would say that. And I would run because we were too young to understand how we were doing what we were doing to each other. And when he grabbed my hand and said, "Where are you going? Why do you keep running from me when we get into an argument?" I said, "I don't like the way you talk to me." Just like that. It's not rah, 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 rah. It was, I don't like the way you